What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Dissect of the Dead, with another episode of Resurrected Retros. Today, we're going to be talking about the GOAT, Spider-Man 2002, Sam Raimi's masterpiece. Now, I will be getting into spoilers into this video, so if you have not seen the movie, what the hell are you doing? The movie's been out for 24 years. Go watch it. It is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. It's easily one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. It's got a little bit of competition with Spider-Man 2, but I will get into spoilers here. Most people have already seen the movie, so if you are watching this, shout out to you. But to people who have not seen the movie that are interested in this movie, go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It's on FX. Go find it. Go watch it. What are you doing? Don't wait on me. Anyway, let's get into it. Everybody knows the story of Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, the origin of Spider-Man going off the Amazing Fantasy and Amazing Spider-Man runs. It's fun to revisit movies like this on the lead up to Doomsday, as I've been doing my Marvel binge. I watched Iron Man first, and now I'm on to Spider-Man, and I fucking love this movie. I love this movie so much. I grew up watching this movie. I grew up as a kid. I think this movie was the first movie that got me interested into Marvel Comics and got me into the Ultimate Spider-Man runs as a kid. And I had the video games. I had the coloring books. I was into Spider-Man and Hulk as a kid. I didn't quite get into the X-Men, but Spider-Man and Hulk were like my two Marvel heroes that I grew up with that I loved, and I fucking loved Wolverine once I got to my like teenage years. But this movie was the first thing that kind of was my gateway into that. And the plot is, it's, I want to say it's fairly simple. It's actually way more complicated than I remember it being on this, rewatch. But essentially, it follows the origin of Peter Parker as he becomes Spider-Man. It only stays in high school for about 30, 40 minutes of the movie, and then it moves on to eventually what we see as Spider-Man. It starts off with Peter Parker as this outcast nerd. He's chasing the bus, and we have the voiceover narration, which at first I was thinking, well, I'm not sure if I'm okay with the voiceover narration, but then I remembered that was a way of like doing the talking thought bubbles from the comics. So doing the voiceover narration was kind of a way to balance the medium of comic books where they have the voiceovers and the movies where you couldn't have the talking bubbles on screen. You know what I mean? So we are introduced to MJ and her background as, Peter's next door neighbor and him falling in love with her over the course of the movie. And of course, he's chasing her, but he doesn't quite have the courage to actually get her, to actually tell her how he feels. And we watch throughout the movie the evolution of Spider-Man, or the evolution of Peter as a man who has been chasing this girl, who loves this girl, and how that balances into his life as Spider-Man as he becomes this new person. And obviously, you got to address the legendary, iconic Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben, delivering the legendary and iconic line that is, with great power comes great responsibility. And that line means so much more in this movie than I think a lot of people give credit for. And God, I fucking love this movie. I fucking love this movie so much. I had so much fun watching it on the rewatch. So there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. The origin of Green Goblin and Spider-Man happens at the exact same time. And throughout the course of the movie, each significant step to get them to where they become the definitive versions of themselves and the choices that they make that lead to the consequences of their decisions all culminates in the third act. It is so well done. Now, I do have questions. I do have my criticisms. One of which is, Spider-Man doesn't joke as much in these movies. He doesn't quip as much. And that's I think at the time that it was made, it wasn't nearly as Joss Whedon, if I could, for lack of a better term. But there was some moments where Peter was having, as Spider-Man, he was throwing some jokes out there, calling him, Green Goblin Gobby and shit like that, right? Having a little bit of fun, but it didn't quite reach the same levels that, say, Andrew Garfield's joking and quipping became. I mean, you got to remember, Spider-Man was the blueprint for Deadpool. Deadpool was basically a combination of She-Hulk, Deathstroke, and Spider-Man into one chaotic ball. And the part that was Spider-Man was not just the red suit, but the quippy nature, the attitude, the funny jokes, right, while fighting, the quipping, the Joss Whedon dialogue, basically, of it all. And so there was that criticism, but then there was also things like, Bonesaw McGraw, the legendary Macho Man Randy Savage. God, so many iconic memes came from that, and the whole movie's full of memes. If you ever want to see a movie that's full of memes, this is one that's like that. But the wrestling in this movie, they don't understand the wrestling at all. That's not how cage matches work. That is not how wrestling works. You don't just sign up for 3 minutes to fight for $3,000. It does not work that way. You will get sued. You will get sued doing that shit. If anybody knows about the New Jack mass transit incident, you know that shit doesn't happen. These are trained professionals. They don't do that. The one accurate part of that segment, though, was the business side. When Peter goes to get his money, and the dude's like, "Here's $100." He's like, "It's 3,000, right?" And he's like, "No, 3,000 for 3 minutes." It's like, yeah, that part of the wrestling business is true. That part is pretty on point with wrestling bookers. Shout out Underground Wrestling. But anyway, we see the moments where Peter makes decisions and the Goblin makes decisions. So let's talk about Peter's story first, because he is the titular character, the main character of the entire movie. And I mean, before I get into it, acting is pretty solid. Everything is standardly good, right? You can't really come out of this movie thinking there was bad acting or all that stuff. I mean, Willem Dafoe is always fucking great. Tobey Maguire delivers. Rosemary Harris delivers. Everybody generally it was good acting, good scripts, good dialogue. CGI has aged really bad in this movie. I wouldn't say it's awful, but it's definitely like mid 2000s, early 2000s, late 90s like CGI. It doesn't look great. I do think that in Spider-Man 2, the CGI has aged better, but in this movie, CGI was not super great. The special effects were choppy sometimes, particularly whenever it came to Spider-Man's suit, and whenever he was flying around and crawling up walls, some of that looked kind of choppy, especially when he was in his early suit before the John Romita suit. But the Green Goblin, when he's flying around on the glider, like, you could tell the CGI was definitely early 2000s, late 90s, and it looked kind of weird. So getting into the character arc of Peter Parker, right? So we're seeing this nerdy kid that is, coming through high school, going through the awkwardness. He fights Flash Thompson in a fucking great fight scene where he understands his powers. He gets bit by the spider as he's trying to creep on MJ. He's taking pictures of her, and he's like, "Hey, for the paper." It's like, you're a teenager. We know what you're gonna do with those pictures, all right, bro? You can't fool us. We gotta address that those actually went to the school paper, right? Because we know where else they went if they didn't go to the school paper. But he gets consequences for those actions almost immediately when the enhanced spider bites him. The radioactive spider bites him, and he gains powers. And so each decision from then on is about, what he's trying to do to advance for himself. He starts off as a very selfish teenager, right? He starts off as this kid that's chasing Mary Jane. The dude is simping. I'm sorry to say it, but he is simping for Mary Jane the entire movie. And a lot of his decisions early on are done as this puppy drunk love teenager. He goes to try and, he joins an amateur wrestling event to fight for $3,000, putting his life on the line so he can get a risky $3,000 to pay for a car to impress Mary Jane. He is constantly trying to impress this girl throughout the movie. But as he gains his powers, as he learns and goes forward, he starts to give more than he wants to take. He starts to give more to the community of New York. And by the end of the movie, every time he saves Mary Jane, by the end of the movie, Mary Jane loves him but he knows that he has to protect her by not giving himself to her, by sacrificing his time with her for the people of New York to be Spider-Man. It's a wonderful way to kind of be like he's chasing this girl and she's, she doesn't see him and he won't let her see him, and it's sort of this romantic and beautiful story. But once he realizes that he has a larger responsibility as Spider-Man, he can't be with her. He has to protect her because he has witnessed Aunt May and her get hurt and captured by the Green Goblin throughout the movie. So he can't be with her by the end of the movie, and so it's a heartbreaking catharsis. But it's like he said, my gift, my curse at the end of the movie. And so, God, I fucking love this movie. And so, it also came out during the time, I think, 2002. There was some reshoots that were being made post 9/11. This movie came out. It was probably the biggest blockbuster that came out after 9/11, and it united people. It united American people under something that we can collectively enjoy. And this is something I love about this movie, is that it's escapism. It's pure escapism. Whatever you want to say about Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, the people who were running Marvel Comics for whatever decades, right? Whatever you want to say about them, about their affiliations, their genealogy, their heritage, whatever. One thing you cannot deny, and I reject the idea and concept of, is people slandering them just because, oh, they are big nose small hat people. So therefore, everything they did was propaganda to brainwash kids. And while you have a fair belief to come to that conclusion and judgment, I personally reject the idea of that being the only contribution that they have as creators. In fact, I find it insulting, because what makes stories like this, what makes stories like Superman 1 with Christopher Reeve, Batman, Spider-Man, what makes these stories universally loved and brings people together is escapism. Sure. It's people will be like, oh, but escapism is just putting the blinds on. You're living in the Matrix. Fine. I want to live in the fucking Matrix then. I like that people can be united under something so beautiful. Art that is beautiful. Art that is objective and has a universal appeal to it. The idea of good versus evil. Spider-Man spends the majority of the movie not just fighting Green Goblin, but saving people from peril. The idea of being something greater than yourself, something that is aspired to be. Spider-Man throughout the movie, his powers, he uses his powers for, with great power comes great responsibility, and he uses them for good. As where Norman Osborn uses his powers for evil, to do things for selfish desires. And Peter learns that early on in the movie, while Green Goblin suffers the consequences of each of his horrible mistakes and choices as the Green Goblin. So I reject the notion that this movie is somehow propaganda by little small hat people, and that it's meant to brainwash you into fake patriotism. Fuck that. Because if we can't unite under something beautiful like this with the collective idea of patriotism, the collective idea of good versus evil, Spider-Man saves people. He saves children. He stops things from falling onto people when catastrophe happens. He fights a bad guy, Green Goblin, who is actively trying to destroy things. He's actively trying to harm innocent civilians. And so Spider-Man is going out of his way to risk his body. He gives up being with MJ to save people. I wholly reject the idea that what Marvel is all about is, looking up to exceptional people and trying to be like them. Whole of New York gets behind Spider-Man by the end of the third act. Because while there were some people that were against Spider-Man, you see the struggle of the citizens of New York, where some people wanted him arrested because he's a vigilante. J. Jonah Jameson, who is cast by J.K. Simmons, the fucking best casting ever. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. It's such a fucking fun watch to watch him. But you have citizens that are rooting against Spider-Man, and basically that doesn't stop Peter from going out there and still doing what he believes is right. And this is why we love characters like Spider-Man and Superman and Batman, is that in spite of people hating them, they still go and do the right thing. And so that's one of the things I loved about this movie, is that when he goes out and he does the right thing, he is rewarded by MJ loving him, by the people of New York having his back, by people, accepting that he is a hero. And then the third movie, which I'm not going to get to just quite yet, but in the third movie, he gets the key to the city because he is such a good guy, because people love him. So the idea of, the concept of Marvel Comics and the concept of, Stan Lee's vision and Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby's vision, going back to the 60s and 70s and 80s and whatnot, the idea of this being masonry or propaganda by Hollywood or whatever, you can make an argument for that, for later movies, down the line. For movies like this, for the original concepts and comic books and stuff like that, I wholly reject the idea of Spider-Man and Batman and Superman and these kind of heroes being these propagandist-like puppets by Jews, essentially, for lack of a better term, Jews. But I reject the concept of that, because what you're saying is that these characters, the virtues that they provide, what makes them heroic and what makes them likable, is all a farce. And I just don't believe that. I just don't have the part of my brain that says that is true. I think that's all bullshit. While some of those people can be right about whatever, criticizing this movie for that, I don't believe that, because when you see Spider-Man and you see how he is treated throughout the movie, he saves Mary Jane from a bunch of thugs. He saves children from falling, buildings and shit, and like, what is it? There's one of those train cars has full of kids, and Goblin drops it and he saves them. There was one moment I thought was funny whenever Goblin was holding Mary Jane in one hand and holding the kids in the other. He was like, "You get to choose, Peter. Now choose." And he was like, "You get to choose, Spider-Man." And Spider-Man's just like, "Fuck them kids," and he jumps after MJ first. I thought that was funny, but then he saves the kids. He saves the kids anyway, and the people of New York have his back. So I loved that, and I love this movie just for that reason, the escapism. People are like, "Oh, you're in the Matrix too much." Fuck it. Fuck it. I'd rather be in the Matrix then. Fuck it. If that's the case, fuck it. Because this movie was genuinely good. I was smiling so much watching this movie that my eyes were tearing up. That's how much I fucking love this movie. I've loved this movie since I was a kid. It was so fun rewatching this. And when you have other characters as well, you have perfectly cast Aunt May with Rosemary Harris being just the lovable Aunt May, who is always backing Peter, always trying to be an inspiration to him. You have Harry Osborn being played by James Franco, which I loved how they were setting the seeds for him. They were like, everything that, Harry Osborn was trying to do was to impress his father. He tries to impress his father by, being friends with Peter and trying to, he loves Mary Jane, so he wants to impress Norman by showing off Mary Jane. And, there's one moment in the movie where they're at this like World Unity Fair or something like that, and she's wearing a oriental red robe. And he's like, "Why aren't you wearing the black? My father loves black. I want to show you off to my father." And then later at the Thanksgiving dinner, she's wearing black whenever he knows that his father's coming. And so there's things like that. Like, you notice those kind of details on the rewatches. And so his character ultimately evolves as well from this rich Nepo baby that is trying to impress his rich father. And when his father finally reconciles with him near the third act, his father dies by his own hand. The irony, the dramatic irony of Norman Osborn, ending his own life on accident through his own decisions, his decisions to act out of bad faith. And throughout the entire movie, you have Norman, who is fighting Quest Aerospace for military contracts. And when he becomes the Goblin, the decision to take the performance enhancers turns him into the Goblin, which ultimately drives him nuts. His decision made him have a split personality Fucking well done by Willem Dafoe, by the way. One of his best roles. But now that he has a split personality, he goes off and he destroys the Quest Aerospace guys and he gains more government contracts. Sure, he benefits from that, but when Quest Aerospace starts to reevaluate their situation, they offer to buy Oscorp. The board throws Norman out. There's consequences for the decisions that he's made. And so then he destroys the board. And now that awakens Spider-Man. Now he's got a problem with Spider-Man. He wants to bring Spider-Man in, and he wants to recruit Spider-Man because he believes that you find the dynamics between the two. Norman, as Green Goblin, believes that since they have exceptional powers, since that they are super people and they have these abilities, they should be raised up. They should be praised by the average, people of New York. While Spider-Man believes that you must do something greater than that. You don't have you have to be responsible with your powers. You can't just be praised by these people. You can't just be raised up and propped up. You have to actively use your powers for good. Because if you don't, bad things will happen and you're going to get blamed for it. And I think that's the philosophy behind Peter Parker that makes him such a wonderful everyman that everybody can relate to. And everybody loves to do the whole taking Stan Lee out of context when it comes to the suit. Because anybody can be under the suit. Why can't Miles Morales be under the suit? Well, guess what, motherfucker? You still call him Miles Morales. You don't call him Spider-Man. Whenever you refer to Spider-Man, everybody consciously thinks Peter Parker. So you have to reference Miles Morales by name. it don't work that way, bud. So basically, every decision that Norman makes or that the Goblin makes, there are consequences for it. And he just keeps digging himself into that hole before at the end of the movie, the glider stabs him in the gut. The glider that he stole from his own lab gets him right in the gut. And Peter learns early on the decisions that he makes. He tries to risk his body and becomes a wrestler. And he doesn't get much for it. He tries to creep on Mary Jane, gets bitten by a spider, gets these extraordinary powers. He lets a robber go. A robber comes in, and the Dennis Carradine guy, he comes in and he robs the wrestling booker at gunpoint. Peter lets him go, and guess what? He finds out that Uncle Ben was shot and killed by this guy. Later we find out that's retconned in Spider-Man 3, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then Peter comes back and he tries to find this guy, and he doesn't kill this guy. He finds a moment of regret, but this guy dies by his own hand. He accidentally kills himself. Accidentally. He trips onto something and falls out a window. But I love that Peter doesn't actually kill anybody in this movie. He doesn't go out of his way to actively harm I say actively harm. That moment was a moment of reflection for him so that he knows that killing is bad, so that he knows there are consequences for his actions. And then he takes steps to making things better, to make things right. And he goes out there and he saves New York. He helps the people of New York. He's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Did I mention I love this movie? I fucking love this movie. I could watch this movie a million times and not have a bad time watching it. There's nothing anybody can do to take that away from me. I love my Matrix. I love my Goyslop. Fuck you. I'll watch this 100 million times again. It's such a fucking good movie. And I wish I could spend hours upon hours talking about this, but this video has gone on a little bit too long. But goddamn, I love this movie. I love Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I will say, since we mentioned Sam Raimi, the directing is very Sam Raimi. If you watched any of the Evil Dead movies, which I am a fan of Evil Dead, you could see where he sprinkles in his little Evil Dead references and how he does stuff. Green Goblin's transformation is genuinely horrifying. It scared me as a kid. It still frightens me now. It's genuinely one of the most frightening origins for a villain on screen. And there were some unnecessary jump scares in there. They got me as a kid. They don't get me as an adult, especially after I've seen the movie so many times. But there were some super weird, obscure jump scares in this movie that I just thought were kind of out of place. But it is a Sam Raimi movie after all. And then you have the Bruce Campbell, Bruce Campbell cameos that show up in these movies. This one, he's the wrestling announcer. There's so much to peel apart from this movie. I just don't have the time or the editing skills to get it. I should probably write this kind of stuff down and make video essays, but This video was more so just to shoot the shit and talk about it, because I love this movie and I've been watching these Marvel movies up to the lead up to Doomsday. And if something else comes up, I'll talk about it. But for now, I just want y'all to know, go watch Spider-Man 2002, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. It is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Until then, thank you for watching. And so like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts and experiences on Spider-Man. And yeah, I'm so happy that I watched this movie again. I'm so fucking happy. It's so good. I'm having a good time. But I will catch y'all in another video very soon. Spider-Man Resurrected Retros.